Hello everyone. So today we'll be learning about this interstate succession in the Muslim law. So I've just taken this material actually from the YG law. Like I normally refer materials from many external sources, but I felt this material was little more good enough. So I'm just giving them credit though. But the main intention of me teaching you this about this interstate succession comes basically one of the most important concepts under the family law, especially for understanding about this Muslim law. So, on that basis, let's understand the components of what is this interstate succession, especially in terms of Muslim law, in a very simplified manner. Within 20 minutes or within that short period, I'll be trying to explain all the important components. Okay. Now, remember, see, guys, I want all of you to remember this one important concept that when a Muslim dies, okay, remember when a Muslim dies, there are basically four duties that needs to be performed. How many duties? Four duties that needs to be performed. Duty number one, pay for its funeral expenses. So what not is his funeral expenses, pay for it. So if all kind of his funeral expenses, for example, this is body. So his funeral expenses, everything that needs to be covered. First thing. Second important point is paying debts of the deceased. So what not debt that particular Muslim has basically incurred, paying all kind of his debt that needs to be done. Very simple. Okay, paying his debt. Third important thing is like for example, if I am a Muslim, okay, so before I die, I will write a particular will stating that my so and so property shall be belonging to, and your name is Tarun. Just imagine your name is Tarun. Now, when I'm giving this property towards you, there is a will which I write. So one third of that will means in that will, what I've written, the one third will be gone to that particular person. One third of that property shall be gone to that particular person, and then remaining what comes that basically is distributed among the. It could be basically to the relatives. All right, one remaining that basically goes to the relatives. That's it. Very simple. When a Muslim dies, four things: pay for his funeral expenses, pay for his debt, will it goes to the will. So before when somebody die, they'll write a will that in that will one third of that decision will be gone to that particular person, and then only one third, okay, maximum of one third, not beyond that it won't go. Papa, what their own father, mother, husband, and wife and all they'll love, then they will start to do some kind of struggle. Then. So then relatives, then remaining it will go to the relatives. That's it. Okay. Now let's see on how it is distributed among the relatives. Now let's see on how basically the property is basically distributed. Now these are the classes. In these classes, first we have sharers, residuaries, distant kindred, and SG. Now what is it? Simple flowchart. Sharers means like how the property is basically divided. In sharers, we can have sometimes father, mother. We can even have about uterine brother, uterine sister, half blood. So all this comes under the sharers. So now in Sunni law, how much it is basically divided? It is basically divided among 12 sharers. Okay, in Sunni law, we have 12 sharers, which we have almost 8 females and 4 males. Whereas in Shia law, we have 6 females and 3 males. Okay, that's it. This is how the property is basically distributed. Now, if there are 12 people, I said, which are the kind of category of people, father, grandfather, so and so people. Same thing, same category. So, how it's divided? We have in that category of 8, 12 sharers, we have 8 females and 4 males. 8 plus 4 is how much? 12. Shia law, 6 plus 3 is how much? 9. Now, the remaining property of the sharers will go to the whom? It will go to the residuaries. Now, the remaining property of the residuaries will go to the distant kindred. Now, just imagine if nobody is there. If I am a Muslim, I do not have any kind of relatives. I do not have husband. I do not have wife. No one. For example, my relations, everyone is dead. Just imagine. So, who will that property go after my death? It will become SG. That means that it will go to the government. That's it. It will just go to the government. So, if it's going to the government, then that's it. Nothing else. You cannot do it, right? Like it will go to the government when government basically takes care welfare of everything. I think it doesn't even apply for Muslim law, for any law. For example, if there is no particular owner, then obviously government can basically take it and use it for the welfare of the people. This is the important components. Now let's see what are the rules of exclusion. Yeah. So now let's see the rules of exclusion. Now what is this rules of exclusion? Very simple. I'm just using this map again. Rule of exclusion says that who are the people who gets excluded, especially under this Muslim law. Now first you want to understand that in Muslim law, it does not recognizes the two important aspects. Where is me? Okay, this is that. So in Muslim law, it does not recognize two important categories. That is about principle of principle of representation and rule of nearer. Now, what is this principle of representation? Principle of representation speaks about, in a very simplified manner, if I tell it, principle of representation, it is more about this one here. It's like varis. What is varis? Like, for example, if there is a son, if he is not alive, his son can acquire it. So that varis, this one doesn't come under Muslim law. So that principle of representation, what is it called? It's called as principle of representation, especially this varis. Now, what is this rule of nearer? Now, rule of nearer, if I tell it in a very simplified manner, now if you observe, where are okay, this is my chart. In Sunni law, we discussed how many sharers are there. in Sunni law, 12 sharers. Very good. In that we have almost 8 females and 4 males, right? Now, as part of it, this is the entire chart for that. This one. For this entire, I'm just showing an example. That's about rule of nearer. I'm showing it to you. In rule of nearer, for example, if father is there, then the paternal grandfather can be removed. Okay, then it shall be going only to him, this one, property. So when one particular authority is there, comparing to other which is very dominant, then that particular authority is enough. When father is there, paternal grandfather can be removed. Now, for example, if father is there, and if there is brother, and then if there is a sister, I'll just show it to you here. It's father is there, brother and sister is also there. When brother and sister is there, these both will be excluded, and only father will be taken into consideration. Why? Because father, through only father, only brother and sister is linked. No, so that's the reason. Okay. Now, for example, if mother is there and then there is brother and sister, what will we do? Will we exclude brother and sister here? No. We will be taking mother plus brother and sister. Okay, that is basically how Muslim law functions. You cannot ask me how it is. It is, that's the way how it is functioning. All right. This is the third important category. Now, for example, like when there is half blood, or for example, when there is full blood, this half blood and all is basically removed. Okay. When there is full blood, this half bloods and all is basically removed. For example, half blood and all, they're completely removed, because when full blood itself is there, why you want a half blood relation over there? Okay, this is a basic important components you need to keep in the mind. So if you understood still here, it's going to be a little more like a cakewalk, but along with it, yeah, but uterine relationships won't be excluded. Okay, remember, in uterine relationship won't be basically excluded. Now remember, there are basically five primary hires in a Muslim law. Five primary hires means what? Five primary hires means these five hires are always there in a Muslim law. You cannot always, you can at any point of time cannot exclude them. Okay, these five kinds of people are always there under when we distribute a property. Which are those five kind of categories? Now we have son we cannot avoid, daughter we cannot avoid, mother we cannot avoid, father we cannot avoid, husband and wife. So these are 1 2 3 4 5 6 people will never be avoided. Okay, who is who if present would be not excluded, would not be excluded, and they can inherit property by default. Okay, these six people, remember, these six people cannot ever be removed. Where is my mouse? Yes, these six people will never be removed. Remember, these six people. Who are these six people? Very simple: daughter, son, mother, father, husband, wife. That's it. These six people will never be removed in terms of inheritance. That means that they cannot tell that they will not get the property. They will surely get it. Yeah, voluntarily if they want, they can tell it. But yeah, these six people will be getting it. But son, remember, yeah, son is basically considered as a residuary. I remember in one of our classes, was discussing, one girl was telling this Muslim law and all has huge amount of male dominance. Yeah, that is true. Not male, not only just Muslim law. Like even in Hindu law, certain aspect there is some kind of male dominance, right? In most of the laws, we have male dominance. So son will by default will get the property at any cost. He will get the property. There is no kind of exclusion from it. He will surely get the property. So this is the important component you just need to remember. Now let's starting with our discussion on how much husband will be getting, how much wife will be getting, how much son daughter will be getting, how much mother will get, how much father will be getting. Now if a husband will be getting 1/4, okay, husband will be getting how much? He'll be getting the 1/4. And if there is no lineal descendants, who is this lineal descendant, guys? Lineal descendant means, for example, if there is no child children, or on that basis, then he'll be getting only half of the share. That's it. If there is husband is there, then 1/4. If there is if there is no lineal descendants, he'll be getting only half. Now if wife, just imagine if wife and children can inherit together 1/8. Okay, wife and children can inherit how much? 1/8. Remember, husband is 1/4. So you can only think parallelly, if wife and children is there, it's going to be 1/8. Now if, for example, if there's a wife, she does not have no children, then she'll be getting only 1/4. 1/4 of the shares. If multiple wives are there, then the shares will be divided in the wives. Okay, they'll be divided in that proportionate ratio. Okay, but husband 1/4, wife 1/8 with the children. But if that without the children, husband will get only one half, that is this much, and wife will be getting only 1/4. Just divide it on that basis. Now for example, if there is single daughter, a single daughter will get half. But more than one daughter, if there are, just imagine there are three daughters, they'll be getting all together as 2/3. How much they'll be getting? They'll be getting all together as basically 2/3. One daughter, half. More than more than like for them, more than one daughter, 2/3. Now in, as I said, always her son will always get double the share of each daughter. That's always true. Son will get more than the share of the daughter. Now how much will mother be getting it? Mother will be getting it over here 1/6. Okay, and if there are no children, okay, I meant here if there is no lineal descendants. Okay, that's what I communicated. I think I've just replicated in a different way. Apologies. It is no lineal descendants here, also no lineal descendants. Then they'll be getting 1/4. If son and daughter, if son and daughter will be getting almost how much? Son will be getting double the share of the daughter, whereas the son will be getting double the share of the daughter. Daughter will be getting only half. If there is one daughter. If there is multiple daughters, she'll be getting two third. Or okay, and mother will be getting inherit. Mother, if mother inherits with the children, then she'll get one sixth. If there are no children, she can get only one third. And father by default, he'll be getting one sixth of the share. Just remember these numbers. Okay, one fourth, one eighth. Okay, one fourth, half, one eighth, one fourth, and then son, like daughter half. More than this one, three people, two third, and then they will get double the share of each daughter, one sixth, one third. If father has a fix, then he'll be getting one sixth. That's it. This much you remember, it's more than enough. So now let's discuss about this doctrine of al. See, doctrine of al zira, not al zira. It's al. Okay, doctrine of al and the doctrine of rad. Rad. I'll explain to you in a very simplified manner. See, guys. So what is this doctrine of al? Al says that, for example, now there's an apple. Okay, just imagine I have an apple in my hand. What do I have in my hand? I have an apple in my hand. Now I having apple in my hand. Just imagine there are 12 guests who's going to come to my house. 12 guests who's going to come to my house. So then what happened in that one or two apples? I'll be just cutting into 12 pieces. And they said that they'll be coming on Tuesday. And I'll be like, okay, chalo, let me wait. Then I'll be waiting. And suddenly, when these 12 people come, they'll bring one of the guests. Okay, one of the guests. So how much? It will become 13, and I have just 12 people of 12 pieces of apple in my hand. Now, what am I supposed to do? I do not have extra piece. In case in that chota sa apple, if I cut half, what confused they'll think. Similar way, in the doctrine of al, if I tell the property of the deceased should be like most of the time is equal to the share of the heirs. That means that the property of the deceased, like for example, if a woman is basically dead, just imagine, like after a Muslim dies, the property is basically goes in four kind of categories: funeral expenses, then we learned about payment of debt, then we learned about will, and after that, after it go to relatives. So just imagine what comes remaining. For example, most of the time the property of the deceased will basically be equal to the sharers, right? Basically property of the deceased will be equal to the sharers, but there are some scenarios in which the property will not be equal to the sharers, right? Got it. Property will not be equal to the sharers. Similar to that apple example, 13 people, property is not equal to the sharers. At that point of time, what you're supposed to do, at that point of time, share of each. Okay, now we have to classify them in such a category that we have to increase the sharers. Like we have to increase the proportionate on how we want to divide it. It could be basically understood through the numerical value itself. But if I can show you through this diagram itself, you'll be able to understand. There is mother, father, wife, husband, three daughters. Now just imagine that if there is mother, father. So for father, what is the share of the property we discussed? Think, what was the proportionate for father? For father, it is 1 by 6. For mother, it is again 1 by, if I'm not wrong, it is, yes, 1 by 6th. And wife, it is basically how much? 1 by 8th. And husband, over here, we have again, the share is basically 1 by 4th and 2/3, because three daughters are there, 2/3. Like if you, what I'm telling you, if you compare with the previous slide, you'll get this clarity. Just imagine, okay. So mother, if you observe in the previous slide, she'll be getting the share up to how much? She'll be getting up to 1 by 8. Father will be getting 1 by 6th, right? 1 by 6th. And okay, mother will be getting 1 by 6, father also will be getting 1 by 6. Your husband will be getting how much? 1 by 4th. And wife will be basically getting 1 by 8 along with the children. Now if for example, if she is dead, now at such scenario, what happens when the share is not proportionately equal? At that point of time, you have to find the common denominators for all these, okay, all these shares. You have to check what are the common denominators, and if the denominator is little more, we have to increase it to approximate value. Only then the shares will be equal. I'll be showing you to in the upcoming illustration, but for the timing, just understand this one. I even went across few of the other YouTube channels, but this was a little more easier for me to understand. So that's the reason. This is also by Ganesh Pujari. He has explained it very beautifully. Most of the time, the property of the deceased equal to the total amount of the sharers. So property is basically equal to the sharers, but sometimes the property available is lesser than the sharers specified. So property is not this one. See, just imagine, he said that he gave a different illustration of it. If you understand the previous one, this one you at least you focus. Now husband, it's basically has if a Muslim lady dies, leaving the husband, father, and two daughters. So husband share is how much? 1/4. Father share is 1 by 6. Daughters is 2/3. Okay, now what happened? Now what I'll do, I'll find a common denominator, that is 12, and then I'll do normal this one, LCM and HCF, right? Common denominator, 3 into 4s are 12. 2 into 4s are 12. 6 into 2s are 12. 1 into 2s are 2. 4 into 3s are 12. then 1 into like 1 into 4, or 1, like basically you have to just 4 twos are 12, so you have to even calculate in that basis, and when you add on you'll get an approximate value. Now if you observe, there are 13 overall shares that needs to be given, but it's just 4 by 12. At such scenario, what do? I'll be showing it to you here. The share of each share to bring under the common denominator, the denominator to be increased to the total number of shares. So denominator, the value, see, if you observe, we require 13 shares, but we have only 12 in hand. We require 13 shares, but we have only 12 in hand. Now what we'll do, we will increase the 12 into 13. We'll make the denominator common, and then we will be selling up this one. So it's very simple. The share of each sharer to bring under the common denominator, the denominator to be increased to the total sum of shares. If you're not understanding this, I'll even drop out this link also, Doctrine of Al of Ganesh Pujari, or just type Doctrine of Al in Muslim Law by Ganesh Pujari. He also posts many amazing videos. You can see it. So here basically we try to increase the proportionate of this denominator. That's it. That's basically about this Doctrine of Al. Now if you understood this concept, the entire other aspects will be literally like a cakewalk for you. Now if I tell you now what is this Doctrine of Rad, so Doctrine of Rad, RADD, or Doctrine of Return. Okay, what does it mean, sir? After distributing sharers, if nobody present in collecting the remaining residuaries, then it goes back to the sharers. Now I can show you through this simple understanding. Now, Doctrine of Rudd, if I just tell once again in a simplified manner, see guys, we have learned that the property of the sharers remaining will go to the residuaries. Now, after that, what happened? Remaining will go to the distant kindred. We just learned in that formula, right? If I want to take you in this particular chart itself, you observe, here itself, if you remember, I just share once again. Wait. Yes. Now, for example, the property of the sharers, the remaining will go to the residuaries. Then it will go to the distant kindred, right? Now, just imagine if scenario, the property is basically divided to the sharers equally. Over here, it is divided equally. Now, just imagine if there are no residuaries. Okay, if there are no residuaries, then the remaining property will go back to the sharers. It won't be going to the distant kindred, or it will be not going to the widowers. So that is basically a simple understanding which you need to keep in your mind. Okay. See, similar way. For example, the sharers we have been dividing up to two-thirds. Just imagine. And if there are no residuaries available, the property will go back directly to the sharers. Okay. It won't lie with the distant kindred or with anyone else. Even the widow or widower, they cannot claim anything under this particular doctrine of Rad. That's called returning. Returning back to whom? For me? No. Returning back to the sharers. So now we will see disqualifications on who cannot basically inherit a property of Muslim law. Under Muslim law, who cannot inherit the property? First one is about, see guys, an illegitimate son, or an illegitimate child. He cannot, in illegitimate child, if I compare from two perspectives, one is from Shia law and from Sunni law. In Shia law, no parents and relatives, no property. Like in Shia law, illegitimate son cannot get the property. Whereas in Sunni law, from mother's side, he can basically get the property. Illegitimate child, right, what exactly it is. So you can inherit it basically from the mother's side. That comes in an illegitimate. So illegitimate child, people tell in different contexts, but in simple way, it's like before marriage, you have a son. That's son could basically be considered as an illegitimate child. Now, the child belongs to that mother over here. So that's the reason in Sunni law they say that mother can basically give to an mother's property can come to her, or from other relatives, or from mother's side, from maternal side, he can get it. Now this is the illegitimate side. Now, for example, seconds in a situation where you cannot inherit the property is that, for example, the person causing the death of another cannot inherit his property. For example, I'm killing someone for getting the property, then I cannot ever inherit it. Law prohibits me for collecting it. So in Shia law, if it was caused intentionally, then you might be not getting it. But in Sunni law, intentional also is basically not considered. See, in Shia law, Sunni law, but regardless, you try to kill others for acquiring the property, then you'll be disqualified. Or third one could be basically converting the religion. Now, if I am a person who's basically inheriting, it's fine. I can convert to other religion and get it. But if my father itself basically converted to other religion, then I cannot go and inherit my all kind of ancestral, all that basic property doesn't come. It doesn't come in that basis. So even that caste basis also, we have certain kind of laws which we need to keep in the mind. And if some cases, even exclusion for daughters. So for daughters also, sometimes properties are not given. Very rare case scenario. So this is the important components which you need to know. Now, along with it, I just want to emphasize one important component, that is basically about, yes, I'll just take you to this slide. Yes, that is mainly about a rule of primogeniture. Rule of primogeniture says that the elder son will get the preference in some aspects of the inheritance. So elder son will most of the time get for preference for acquiring the share. So he is given a little more importance over there. Okay. that's basically coming under this Jammu and Kashmir and all. If you observe this, elders and most of the time they get this property. So that's more about for today's day. All that I really wanted to share, I shared it for you. But along with it, one important component, if I want to tell it to you, know. And the last component would be the difference between this Shia law and Sunni law. In Shia law, if you classify, the rule of representation is followed. I already taught you what is the rule of representation. It is followed. Whereas in Sunni law, it is not followed. You can just write it down. In Shia law, rule of primogeniture is followed. Like male inheritance, that one is it's basically followed in Shia law. In Sunni law, it is not followed. And doctrine of representation is followed in which one? Shia law. Whereas doctrine of representation is not followed in Sunni law. And then no distant kindred in Shia law. Distant kindred is there in Sunni law. You can just write it down. Okay, pause the video, write it down. An illegitimate child cannot inherit property in Shia law, whereas illegitimate child can inherit property in the basically in the Sunni law. So that's all for today's video. Hope you liked it. If you like it, please do like, share, subscribe, and do let me know what kind of content you want me to upload it. Just make sure that you write down the notes here. That's the reason some aspect I'm just dictating to you. That's all. Wish you all the best. Good luck. Jai Hind, Jai Bharat. And yeah, any doubt is there, put in the comment box.